In 2010, Buchanan resident Hayley was getting ready to be a mother. She said it was reflecting on her own childhood and deciding how she will raise her children that she realized that the therapeutic boarding school she went to at 16 was highly abusive and traumatic.
Every single night I have nightmares of that place. I'm hypervigilant with certain things. I do have some memory loss in some instances because where I was restrained and my head had hit, I have a permanent broken toe on my foot where they broke my toe in a restraint gone wrong.
Hedrick is not alone, and survivors of what is being called the troubled teen industry are coming forward more than ever due to coverage in a popular documentary on Paris Hilton called This Is Paris. Shell companies, lack of regulation, closing and reopening of facilities, and exchanging staff make it difficult to track how big the industry truly is. But experts estimate that upwards of 50,000 kids get sent to these facilities every year under the guise of wilderness therapy camps, boarding schools, boot camps, residential treatment centers, transitional living programs, and mentoring programs. Often, kids are sent to more than one with the promise that teens will come back completely healed and obedient. Hedrick attended the academy at Ivy Ridge in Ogdensburg, New York. The school closed in 2009 after abuse allegations and accreditation issues caused a decline in enrollment. Hedrick said that her mom found out about the program after Googling My Out of Control Teen.
A lot of these programs, that's what they feed on. They feed on the idea that parents are going to Google, they're going to search for what to do with their out-of-control teenager, and they put that emphasis on, it's my out-of-control teen. And so it's kind of false advertising because a lot of these programs actually owned multiple entities that came off like they were separate, but were actually all umbrellaed under the same. She fell into one of those companies and got referral processed, and I got sent away.
One evening, Hedrick said she was woken up in the middle of the night to what she thought was an abduction. A man and a woman she had never seen before entered her bedroom and told her she had to come with them, saying you can do this the easy way or you can do this the hard way. She recalled a lot of screaming, crying, and confusion.
I was 16 at the time, being abducted by two strangers in the middle of the night. I didn't know what was going on, so it was very, scary. And overall, I didn't realize how traumatic that experience would be later on in life, but this is a common practice.
The strangers handcuffed her and threw her in the back seat of a rental car. Hedrick said she knew something was odd when the police pulled the car over, but ultimately let them go.
I think the transporter had gotten lost at some point, or was just going really slow, and it didn't look right. So the police officer pulled us over, and we were held up for quite a while because he saw a 16-year-old girl handcuffed in the back seat, screaming that she was kidnapped. You think they're going to be your saving grace, because this looks so preposterous, and I had never heard of this happening.
When Hedrick got to the academy at Ivy Ridge, she recalls going through intake, which included being strip searched by two of her peers.
And that was kind of my first indication that this is not a medical facility, right? This is not a hospital. To have girls who appeared to be younger than myself performing an intake seemed really bizarre to me. And it was also humiliating to have to go through that, to be stripped completely naked, to be completely exposed in front of people who were not medical professionals, who were not clinicians, who were children.
Hedrick explained that the academy at Ivy Ridge ran on a point system. A person could earn 12 points per day, but they could lose points if they received demerits. Demerits were based on a tier system depending on the severity.
They could also stack on. Say I forgot my water bottle in the classroom before, and they said, Hayley, that's a disrespect of property, that's 5 points. And then me as a 16-year-old goes, are you serious? That's a disrespect to staff, that's now 25 points. So I've now blown 2 days worth of points just from that. And now in my 16-year-old brain, I cry out, knowing that I've worked so hard, and I say, I'm so tired of this, I'm not doing this anymore, I can't take it. That is now a refusal, and I have lost everything I have, and I will be put in a room by myself until I can write an essay to explain what I should have done differently. And their essays were, I think like a minimum of like 3 pages.
According to Hedrick, the basic rules included no talking to anybody, no sharing, no slouching, and no looking out the window, which was considered planning to run away. Students were required to signal by pointing if they wanted to sit down or stand up, walk in perfect formation, and finish all meals. Hedrick said that they also widened definitions of self-harm and drugs and alcohol to keep kids in the program.
If you were to commit something like that, you were going to lose everything. But you can't do very much self-harm or drugs and alcohol in that lockdown of a facility. So if you were to binge eat your dinner, you ate way too quickly, and now you are sick, they consider that self-harm. And you could be about to graduate, ready to go home, and you have to start all over again because you just self-harmed.
Hedrick recalled that the academy at Ivy Ridge allowed male staff to tackle children on cinder block floors and walls as a form of restraint. Hedrick said when she was going to college at Fairmont State University, she learned that proper restraint in the medical field is meant to only occur during emergency situations when students were a danger to themselves or others, and that medical staff must be trained to perform the restraint correctly. Ivy Ridge would restrain children for any rule breaking, including something as simple as looking out the window, according to Hedrick.
Something like breaking formation, where the girls had to have their knees locked in a perfect line. And one time my knee went out and they said, get back in formation, so lock my knees. And I said, I can't. And I was restrained. I was taken down to the floor by a 300+ pound man.
Hedrick surmised that the restraints were often used as a scare tactic for other students to use fear to get other students to behave.
It was almost like a sport. It was fun for them. They enjoyed it. It was sadistic.
Although the academy at Ivy Ridge advertised as a therapeutic boarding school, the school had been criticized for offering very little therapy. According to Hedrick, the school made the students participate in group therapy sessions called seminars, where students would take turns discussing their trauma, and then peers would give them feedback. Hedrick said because students were not allowed to talk to one another, often they would use things that were talked about during the therapy sessions.
That was completely traumatizing for kids to hear. If someone just talked about the abuse they suffered or endured at home, or a sexual assault or something, and then to turn around and have 20-something girls say, you're playing the victim, you deserved it.
Hedrick said that these sessions became part of the reason she began refusing to participate in the program, even though she was told that it meant that she wouldn't be able to go home anytime soon.
I couldn't bear to look a crying girl in the face and tell her that she deserved to be raped. There was no way I was going to do that. And if that meant that I was going to sit until I was 18 years old, then so be it. It was always a pattern in the program that if someone was getting about ready to feel any kind of retaliation from a staff member, whether it be they were about to be restrained or they were being humiliated, I always kind of stepped in and would always be the one to take it.
Hedrick said that the academy at Ivy Ridge often made her sit in isolation in an attempt to break her because she refused the program. They called it intervention.
And it was a room that was about the size of a closet, and the student was put in there for, could be hours, it could be days, without any human contact.
Hedrick attended the academy at Ivy Ridge for over a year before she was asked to leave because she refused the program.
So when I left, I felt immense guilt from my family that I didn't try, that I didn't do the program, that this could have fixed us, and I didn't do it.
Hedrick said that she didn't initially realize how abusive and traumatic the program was, and she started to realize more as an adult when she took classes in college to become a social worker.
That's what really started making me open my eyes and realizing, it wasn't just me. I wasn't just some troubled, scum of the earth child, that I was a kid that was taken advantage of. My parents were taken advantage of by evil people.
Still to come in part 2.
They said, oh, boarding school, like, this is going to be, like, glamorous on, like, TV, and it was not. It could not have been any farther from that.
Inherently, sending a kid away is going to create a trauma.
They may have taken a group of 2 kids who proved to be loyal, took them to a stable for an hour, and then snapped a few photos and said, this is equine therapy. So I think there was a lot with image and trying to make it not look scary.